Hey Jen, what are you doing?
Cutting out squares for my quilt. I should have enough in a few days.
You know there's an easier way.
There's an easier way?
Hi quilty friends, welcome back. Today I'm going to share with you 10 items I wish I had known about when I started out my quilting journey. And the first one is the importance of a large cutting mat. I started out using a little 8x8 cutting mat because I just didn't know any better. I thought this was all I needed. I was only cutting a 4.5 inch square, as you saw in the beginning. So when I upgraded to the larger mat, it really made things much more efficient and much easier when I was working on my projects. Number 2, oh boy, are you ready? Number 2 was I learned to cut my fabric into strips. I had pretty much been fussy cutting all of my squares for my quilts. And while it created a really nice project at the end because I was doing baby quilts and I was able to be really creative and focus on different areas of the fabric and create something I felt was really special to the person I was giving it to, it really took a long time. So when I learned to cut things into strips and size them down, that was such a game changer. Number 3, I learned in a quilting class, is to put a pin after you've cut your fabric on the edge of your fabric so you don't have to square it up again. This really saves from having to retrim your fabric, and it also saves fabric. Number 4. This came about when I upgraded my sewing machine, and it came with a 1/4 inch guide foot on the machine. And this really helped with my piecing and making sure that I was getting an accurate 1/4 inch seam. Number 5. I switched to gray thread after I was working on a project and I was doing some really intricate Y seams, and the white thread I was using was showing through in the one spot. And I talked to my quilting friend and she said, Jen, you need to switch over to a light gray thread and then you won't see that. So that is number 5. Gray thread is really a game changer in helping to hide those little mistakes in your projects. Number 6, this really speed up my game when I learned how to chain piece and feeding things through my machine and getting things ready before I went to machine and just feeding them through one at a time. It really helped make me much more efficient and get my projects done a little faster. The other thing that was really helpful when I was chain piecing was using a little piece of scrap fabric called, at the beginning, called a leader, and then at the end, an ender. And this helps you from having to cut your thread at every time you're running your fabric through the machine, and it saves on thread. Number 8. Now, I think my seam ripper thought maybe it could go on vacation because I really wasn't using it that often anymore once I learned how to lock my seams. So on number 8, when I learned how to lock my seams together, that really helped with my piecing and it made things so much more efficient in getting my projects done. So number 9 involves this little guy. I learned to press to the dark side. My quilty friends all taught me, Jen, you have to press towards the dark side so it doesn't show through on your finished project. So thanks, my quilty friends. The other things my quilty friends taught me was to use a little bit of starch to help my pieces to go together, especially when you've got those little pieces that are just being a little bit difficult. And it also helps things to lay a little bit flatter and helps with your project looking a little bit nicer. So I hope by sharing my journey it helps you, or maybe made you chuckle a little bit because you did some of the same things I did in the beginning of your journey. But for now, I wish you well, and most of all, be quilty.